Okay, so we're gonna do Homer's hands. And I have this image, which I found online with a bunch of his hands, and conveniently enough, there's a sort of an ortho view here, which is what we're going to use. So first step, bring the reference in to Maya. So it's 761 by 582. So I'm going to create a plane, polygon plane, 7.61 by 5, sorry, that's a 5.82. Let's move that out of the way so we can see it. I don't like the divisions on there, so 10 by 10 becomes 1 by 1. Right mouse click, go down to where it says assign favorite material, Lambert, and color channel, hit the map button, choose file as the type, browse for Homer Hands, JPEG. Alright, so let's orient it because we want it on the end of the hand. So that's going to mean a tick-tock, 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 minus 90 degree rotation in Y. Let's go in the top view. And let's scale this puppy up. Move it into place. And I'm going to move the pivot of the plane here so that it's centered in the wrist, so that I don't have to keep adjusting it. I can just scale it up, and a little position, scale it up. Good. So we'll just rough it in. The important thing is to get the right structure for the fingers, and then the rest is just tweaking the points. So I'll just extrude out from the end of the palm. Oh yeah, let's pull this plane down so it's out of the way. Stick it in a layer. This is going to be hand reference display layer. And then I'll reference that. And I'm going to grab these 4 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the top view, extrude. So let's Control E, W for the move tool. And I'll pull it out a little bit. I just want to create a little small face before we do the hand itself. So another one, Control E, W for the move tool. And I'm going to pull that out about halfway or so. And I'm just going to scale it and translate it, because this line here for the fingers generally straight back, and then we curl out or puff out on the baby small finger side. So let's do that about halfway. Oops. Let's re-grab the faces. So I'll select everything and then deselect this row, and that'll allow me to re-grab the faces. Another extrude, W for the move. Pull it out to about the base of the fingers, and this one can maybe translate over a little bit and maybe scale a little bit smaller, translate some more back a bit. So that's about right, I guess. And I'm just gonna look in perspective here. I'm gonna grab this middle row, so let's grab these verts right here. Oops, right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull those out. So tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick. And maybe I'll move them over slightly so they're lined up with this finger here, this line of the finger. And they don't look straight. So let's hold down X and let's just drag them in that direction, so that'll snap align them. And if we want, maybe we can just adjust that back to the base of the finger. This can come over. That can go to the base of the finger. And this row, actually, you can see how this row is quite close. I'm going to do something similar here. I'm just going to pull that in quite close. Maybe even do this one a little bit. Let's just check that we were getting the bottom and the top, and we were. So that looks okay, I think. Yeah, not bad. Cool. Okay, so what we want for the finger is we want to I'm just going to cut the faces and divide out so that I have a flat face in between the fingers. It's really important that we don't bring the fingers to a single point, but that we square them off. You'll see what I mean when we finish that up. So I've got one lined up here already, so let's go into perspective and just get the multi-cut tool. So get into modeling, multi-cut, and I'm just going to put another one like right next to this one. And I'll just hit Q to exit the tool and come back in the top view, and maybe I'll just X-ray quickly here so I can make sure I'm grabbing all the verts, all three of them. I'm going to hold down X, I'm going to snap align them forward and then over, so now that they're lined up in Z and X, and you can see the finger's going to come down here and then square off and then go into the next finger. So guess what, we need to add 2 more lines over here for this to separate those 2 fingers out. So I'm going to do that again in perspective. I'll just cut, so multi-cut tool, and I don't really know where they need to go, so I'll just put them in for now, and then I'll straighten them and line them up where they need to go afterwards. Oops, not that one. Backspace to get rid of that one. Nope, backspace. Gonna get closer. There we go. And Q to exit the tool and back into the top view. And these ones need to be lined up, so W for the move tool, X, I'll snap them in that direction and also snap them forward. And now that I've lined them up, I can position them. These ones get snapped in X, snapped in Z, and then I can position them. Okay. So the idea here would be that we should end up with roughly, so let's see, these two can maybe come back a bit. We should end up with roughly, right, the same, more or less size of fingers. That one needs to come over here. All right, so that's kind of the setup. First step anyways. And then what I want to do is I just want to extrude, you know, I can extrude a finger out of these 2 faces, and then the middle finger out of those 2 faces, and the small finger out of these 2 faces, except you'll notice that they're really long, so if we extrude that out, he's going to have like crazy rectangular fingers, and I think from the image it's pretty obvious that they're little round, fat, stubby little sausages, kind of roundish, right? So we want to make sure that they're round before we pull them out of the hand. As well, if I pull these faces out and you count the number of verts that go around the outside here, it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be a 6-sided, which we might be able to get away with, but I prefer to have 8 as a minimum going around the fingers, and then sometimes even more, 10 or 12. So I think I want to add like a vertex at the top and the bottom of each of these faces, just so I'm going to have 8 sides. So to do that, I'm going to grab these edges, shift, 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 and then the bottom ones, shift click, shift click, shift click. And I'm going to take those edges and I'm going to subdivide them, or add a division to them. By adding a division to them, what Maya does is it takes this one edge and makes it 2 edges by placing a vertex in the middle of the edge. So if I go to Edit Mesh, Add Divisions, I don't need to see the options for that. The default is 1 division, and when you do that to an edge, if you look at verts now, you can see it added these vertices in the middle of those edges, and now if you count how many verts I have going around these 2 faces, it's 8. So that's going to be a little more useful. I think probably what's going to happen is these lines need to get a bit closer to each other. So I'm going to take these 2, and even though from the top view they look like they were in the right spot, I'm just going to shrink them up a bit, and I'm going to shrink these 4 up. Maybe just because I want them, they look like, as well in the images, they should be pretty close to identical size, right? There's not real difference between a small finger and his large fingers. And just to help everything out, even though in the drawing they're using spheres for the hand, his hands are almost like perfectly round in all dimensions. That's the cheat of the 2D artist. In 3D we probably won't be able to get away with that, so I'm going to start to create what I guess you might think of as a bit of a palm. And let me just grab these and bring them on. So I'm going to try and create like a little divot across here where his fingers will go. And I might do the same on the top. So I'll just grab these ones and pull them down. And I'm trying, when I'm doing this, is to try and get these sort of proportional round proportion. Maybe move that over a little bit. Let's move these over a bit more. And trying to get them about the same size and kind of roundish looking. Actually, these could probably get moved over now. Might switch my move tool to be object component. Maybe, yeah. Component looks not that much helpful. More helpful. So let's do that. Let's do this. And sure, why not? Let's make sure these are roughly in the middle. All right, let's see what happens now. So I'm going to take the faces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 faces. Let's put this back into world space. I'm going to extrude them. Let's Control E. And I'm going to keep it in local space here. I'm going to hit one of the boxes. So I'm just going to go to the blue box. That's going to make the proportional scale in the middle of the manipulator visible. And then if I scale these down, you can see that I'll do them all. Maybe I'll just drop them a bit. So I'm going for trying to get something that's roundish, and it's not going to be perfect. I don't know what's going on with that one. But what I can do now is take the 4 corners of each individual, scale those in, and you can see now we're getting something that's a bit round. What in the world happened there? Kind of round. And once I get it to some sort of roundness, I'll maybe go and grab the faces. So that one's fairly round, and I'll just scale them up to as big as I can without overlapping. So I want them to be quite large because his fingers are quite fat. So maybe I'll just squat those down so they're a bit rounder, and then whoa, make them big. And same thing here. Looks like that could move over slightly. That needs to move in. That looks pretty round. And again, make them quite large. As large as I can get them. And we want them all the same size, so if I have to decrease the size of some of them, I will. Yeah, I don't know. So that's the prep work. So this is already a 13-minute video. I'll probably call it there. And then we're ready to extrude out, and well, let's do the extrude. So let's grab these 6 faces again. Pop into the top view. Extrude, Control E. Oh, look at that, look at me. Horrible selection. So undo again, and then make sure that I don't select through. So it's only those ones that I want. Yeah, that's better. Control E now. There we go. And what I'll do is I'm just going to pull in the normal direction, which is the blue arrow, and you can see each of the fingers will grow kind of in the direction they need to go. So my angles were off a little bit, but we can adjust that now. And I want to just kind of go to just before the tip, because the tips of the fingers, I'm going to have to go in here and multi-cut just to create a cross at the tips of the fingers. So let's do that for all 3 fingers. And what that will do is I can get the verts now. I'm gonna have to do them individually, I think, and I'm gonna switch this to be component. There we go. So now I can pull those out to make the fingers round. And there's obviously some adjusting that needs to happen here, but let's see what happens when I hit 3. F8, object mode, deselect. So now I have sort of Homer fingers. And again, what's important is that we have this face in between, because if you look at your own fingers, there's basically webbing in between them. And we want to be able to kind of mimic that. We don't want it to come back to a single point, you know, bing bong. We want it to come back to a row of faces. Now, clearly this is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided face, and this one's even larger. This one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-sided face. So we've got a bit of cleanup to do, but what was important is to get the structure of the fingers up and kind of get them out, and now we can just sort of tweak it and then clean up some of these loops. Okay, so I'm going to save it there, and of course my proxy's still on, so my other hand is already working. And yeah, I'll probably go into object mode here. I'm going to delete the history, just so that I don't have any history on this construction side. And I'll put it into wireframe, I guess. No, I won't. That's too much. There's not enough geometry in here. And then just save this out, and I'll come back and we'll tweak the hands.